All right, so let's move the microphone closer to Mr. Sindella. Johnny says hi. All right, there's no unit or lesson. I guess technically we're in unit 0, so I can come back here and say this is erase here. We are in unit 0. There's no lesson here. We're reviewing our lessons from 1 to 5 right now because we're reviewing our linear equation forms. All right, anyone want to help me out? What are those 3 forms? We have the names, and I need the general form of them.
Is it slope intercept?
Slope intercept was the first one.
Linear equation form?
So linear equation applies to all 3 of these.
Oh, yeah. What about point slope?
Point slope was the second. Actually, that was the third one, but I'm going to go ahead and give you that for number 3. So point slope.
Let me make it.
Point slope. I'm going to title this category, by the way, linear equation form. Forms. All right. What was that second one that we did? Go ahead and check our notes. Slope intercept, point slope, and this guy. Starts with an S.
I'm just kidding.
Slope something.
ST.
Stud.
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 This is like a general form. What's another word for general?
Straight. Forward.
Nope. Look at your notes, guys. Come on.
I don't have it. I just have it.
Johnny, flip back through your notes.
Slope intercept.
Okay, in between the lesson on slope intercept and in between point slope, there was a lesson on
Linear. That was the only one I have.
standard
Standard form and
form.
horizontal.
There it is.
Horizontal.
Okay, Jack and Johnny have to do the equations for each of these since Sarah has participated twice already.
Slope intercept is y equals mx plus b.
I hate you. I really do.
mx plus b. All right, Johnny, give me one of the other ones and I'll fill in the last one. You get a choice between either one. Go back through your notes. Daisy, you too at home or wherever you are. Go back through your notes. Figure out what these are or memorize them.
Yeah, quit faking.
Sarah, you should be thinking about what these are too. I think I'm going to maybe call on you for one of them.
Why?
I don't want you to yell it out.
Class. I'm gonna
ax
talk.
plus by equals c.
ax
That's
plus by equals c. Thank you.
I got point slope. Oh.
Who wants to give me point slope? I don't care.
Okay, y minus y1 m
Equals
time. Okay.
Equals
m
m.
times x plus 1x.
No.
What?
X minus x1.
Whatever.
And the careful thing, I guess for all of these, I'm going to write in what you can write and what you have to. So like, I want to know what changes in here. So y equals blank x plus blank. There's 2 things that I need to know. I need to know the slope and I need to know the intercept. Standard form, there's 3 blanks. Something x plus something y equals some number. So there's 3 blanks. And that's in standard form because it makes it really easy to find the 2, what? Do you remember what these 2 things you can find really easy to graph it? I'm going to put it in the notes, but I'm just curious. To graph standard form,
Horizon run.
you're thinking about slope intercept, which also helps with point slope because that's slope. Standard form, you find the x and y intercepts. This is really handy for x and y intercepts. And point slope form, it's going to be a y minus a blank equals your blank for your slope times x minus blank. So point slope has 3 blanks. One of the blanks is for slope. What are these 2 other blanks for? X minus, y minus, what are those for?
The 2 key, I don't know.
Something.
Wait. Point slope form.
So this guy right here is slope, the m. But what are these x1, y1? What is that?
That's coordinates.
Coordinates of
A point.
a point. Exactly. That's all it is. Coordinates of a point.
Made like
Thank you, Johnny. All right. So what I want to do today is I want to go through each of these. I want to know how to graph each of them, and I want to know how to rearrange, because any one of these forms can turn into any of the other. I can turn slope-intercept into standard, into point-slope, and then all the way back to slope-intercept again, just by manipulating the equation. I don't really care about manipulating into standard form. I really care about going from point-slope into slope-intercept, because that's the one you use the most often. So I want to make a little line here. That's the conversion we use the most often.
That's the one I'm good at. Yay.
Good. That's, yeah, the one you need to be good at. So that's the conversion that we need to be remembering. Okay, I want to review each of these in terms of graphing. All right. So I'm going to go to the next slide once I see some pens stop. Jack is ready. Syra is ready. All right. So let's go to this slide. Bless you. Point slope form. Here we go. Point slope. And we are graphing. All right, do you guys want me to explicitly write down the steps, or do you just want to try an example problem?
Just write down the steps.
Can you write down the steps?
We'll write down the steps really quick, and then you guys can just write down the graph if you want. It's up to you guys. All right, so assuming that it's in slope-intercept form, so make sure you understand that assumption. I am assuming I am in y equals mx plus b form. If that is the case, then I'm only going to do the next steps. Graph y-intercept. And then Jack and Johnny, what do you think is the next step? You don't need to write it down if you know it. If you don't know it, you should write it down, though.
Graph x-intercept.
No, graph x-intercept would be standard form, but we don't know the x-intercept. It's kind of hard to find. Somehow, you're going to use the intercept and then the slope. So we just use the intercept. So how are we going to use the slope? It's given to you because slope is the number in front of the x. It's the coefficient in front of the x. So you don't need to find it. What was that, Jack?
Put your slope down.
Put your slope down? What do you mean by that? Like,
Graph your slope.
how do you graph it, though? But you're right. I'm going to write it down. Use slope to graph. And what helps you? There's something to do with the slope equation.
M and X. I don't know.
Here, I'll give it to us. The slope, that's our delta something over delta something.
Oh, it's delta y over delta x.
Delta y over delta x. If we use this, that's how we can use the slope to graph, because this means this delta y, that's a bad arrow, let me try that again. This delta y means go up or down, depending on if it's positive or negative, right? If it's positive, I'm going
Down. No, up.
positive means up, so I'm going to put a little plus above the up. If I'm going down, it means negative. All right, x. This means go, I'm going to say right or left to just stay consistent. All right, in order to go right, is that a positive x or a negative x? And then left must be the negative. All right, so let's try another example.
People that are left-handed are just negatives.
I want you guys to graph y equals negative 3/4 x plus 2. I want you to do this on your paper. Graph y equals negative 3/4 x plus 2. If you want to try some graph paper and then cut that graph paper and staple in your notebook, that works too. In fact, Mr.
When
Sindel
you're a pro and you have graphic.
is going to go to his graph paper,
That background makes me trip.
and then he's going to paste in his graph paper. No, that's not going to work. File. I want to insert a picture. Why is it not going to let me insert a picture?
We're looking for audio.
Ah, there it goes. Okay, maybe I don't need the entire graph. So Mr. Sandell is going to figure out how much graph paper he needs.
Mr. Sandell, could you stop referring yourself to the third person? It's making me uncomfortable.
It's for the video, Jack.
Oh, okay.
We just
It's either,
friends, man.
it's either that one. You know, I mean, why?
You're an attack.
All right, delete this. Go away. Cut. Oh no, I don't want to cut it because now I have to. Oh my god, because now I've just copied it. So annoying. Come back.
Wait, I didn't get the example.
All right, I'm gonna give it to you in just a sec.
I got it.
All right. There we go. I have a nice, beautiful graph. All right, guys, follow along. We're graphing this guy. So go ahead and make your axis. I need a line.
Graph axis.
So I need to move this line a little bit. Oh, no, nope. Oh, that does work though.
Sitting in the rain.
All right, so what's the first point I'm gonna graph, guys? Help me out.
You're gonna graph -3 over 4.
Nope. Follow step 1.
Isn't that y?
Y-intercept, which one is that? Y-intercept is the M or the B?
It's the m.
Nope.
I mean,
M is
it's
the slope.
B.
It's not good.
It's a B. So, graph B.
Two.
Graph it.
Two.
There it is. I just did step 1. Check it off. Yeah, we're good. Now we're going to use our slope to graph. So our slope is what?
3. -3 over 4.
Negative 3 over 4, and that's going to be equal to our delta y over our delta x. So, our delta y is negative 3. What does that mean to us? Let's call on Jack because he's playing with his rulers. Negative 3 is our delta y. Therefore, I'm going what?
Down.
Down, how many?
-3.
Down 3. Because down is the negative, right? So, I'm going to go down. So, 1, 2, 3. I'm at this line right here at -1.
1, 2, 3, 4.
And then someone else, what does delta x equal 4 mean?
Go right, bruh.
Go right.
Don't you go left?
Positive. No.
Bruh.
Shish.
Bruh.
It's right 4 because it's positive.
Yeah, positive.
So 1, so here's 1, 2, 3, 4, and I make my second point. Okay, I guess I should have had step 3 in here. Step 3 is connect those with a line, but I think we all understand that.
Obvious.
Yeah, it is pretty obvious. So here we go, connect them with a line. And bam, we've graphed it.
We're savages.
That's point slope.
That's my favorite one.
Point slope is probably the most commonly taught, I would guess.
Civilized human.
All right, are we ready for our next one?
Chess.
Everyone's not writing, so here we go.
Yeah.
I'm gonna copy this thing so I can have it for next time. All right, so we did point slope. Our next thing is standard form. So go ahead and do standard form graphing.
Well, you're such a baddie. You're such a baddie.
A baddie. I don't think that's a word.
All right, following with the same form. What are the two things that you need to find? Step 1, step 2.
Why don't you say it out loud?
Guys, come on.
Savages.
Step 1, step 2. You're finding what? You're finding two things. Just like we found two things up here, we're finding two things, 2 points. First point comes from,
Y answer.
sure, y-intercept.
Straight line, sure.
And then you can put in parentheses, I'm not even going to write out the words, but what do we set equal to 0? Something equals 0 to find y-intercept.
I don't know.
It's either x or y.
Why?
It's B.
It's the opposite. It's x. So if I'm finding y-intercept, set x
Oh,
equals
yeah.
0.
And then if you're finding the x, then it's.
And then x-intercept, go ahead and write it. Something equals 0.
Y.
Y equals 0.
Why does it?
All right, let's try our example. All right, I'm feeling a negative 2x plus 4y is equal to -4. Graph it. Go. Oh, it's not quite straight. Oh no, I just want to make it straight there. All right. Did you guys find your x and y intercepts yet?
No, wait a minute. Okay, now I did.
Let me put the graph on the right here so I can show you my work. So, oh no, I don't want a pen, I want my brush. Lunch is after this, yeah. And then our y-intercept, all I'm doing here is I'm rewriting the equation. -2x plus 4y is equal to -4. All right, to find your x-intercept, what do?
Make that 0.
Make what 0?
Y.
Make y 0. So essentially I'm crossing out that whole term.
So I just have -2x equals -4.
Exactly, -2x equals -4, and from there,
Divide by -2.
and x equals 2 or -2?
Negative.
Negative crossed it out.
Yeah, negative divided by negative is a positive.
I probably got it wrong here. Yeah, I did.
All right, y-intercept. Which one do I cross out?
X.
The x. All right, Jack, give it to someone else now. So I have 4y equals -4. Johnny or Syra? What is y equal to?
0. I mean 1.
Negative 1. Bruh.
Is it -1 or 1?
Negative 1.
Negative.
It is -1.
Oh, geez.
All right, then I just need to graph them. So x equals 2. X-axis, this is the x-axis, this is the y-axis. X equals 2. I come out here to 2. Y equals -1. There's y equals -1. Make a line. Right
Beans
there.
are very wrong.
All right, we have our graph. Easy peasy, right? All right, last thing in our notes.
Point slope.
There we go, point slope.
And then we're out of here.
Then we do homework. I want to do this in red. Point slope. Graphing.
I'm just trying to cover.
All right, how do we graph point slope? There's 2 steps again. They're almost the same as our second slide.
Y-intercept. X equals 0.
Not exactly, because point slope, it doesn't, that point is not necessarily the y-intercept, right? But we do graph that point.
First point.
Graph point.
Graph point.
And I'm going to put here in parentheses, opposites. We'll see that in a second, in case we're not familiar with it. And then step 2 is exactly the same as the step 2 for slope-intercept form. Does anyone remember step 2?
That's going to be use slope to graph. I'll try to erase it.
Oh, what happened there? Use slope to graph.
No, I know it's going to be drop. Yeah, hear me.
And again, slope is what? Set your slope equal to
Delta y over delta x.
delta x. I will beat that into us over and over again. Delta y over delta x.
I don't like getting beaten.
Me either.
All right, here's our example. Graph this equation. Y minus 2 is equal to, I'm going to say 2 times the quantity of x plus, I'm feeling 3. Go ahead and make your graph.
Opposite.
Yeah, what does opposite mean to us? If you don't like the word opposite, maybe you want to draw this instead. Plus switches with minus. So you can either go from minus to a plus or plus to a minus. That's what opposite means.
Okie dokie.
All right, so where do I graph that point?
Wait.
So remember from our first slide that these things here, right here and here, these are our points. This is coordinates of a point. So somehow I'm going to use those two numbers to graph that first point. So jumping back down here to our next slide. How do I use these two numbers to graph the point? What is the y number?
It's
-2.
Remember, it's not negative now. It's going to be,
Positive 2.
okay, so I come up to y equals 2, and x is going to be
3. -3.
negative 3. It's opposites. 1, 2, 3. So our point is right there. I have the benefit of technology, so I'm going to do this. I'm going to move my graph
That's not even fair.
like this.
It's not fair.
Oh, yeah. I have that.
All right, and then what's our slope? I just did step 1. Step 1 is graphing that point. Graphing the point using our opposites.
It's happening.
Come on, guys. We just graphed the point. Now what are we going to do?
Make a line.
Use slope to graph.
Okay, so do that.
Wait, it's already graphed though.
We graphed a point. We need to graph the second point. So what is our slope? Sarah, help me out. What is our slope? In this equation,
We're through.
2, and then
yeah, slope is 2. So I'm going to say 2 is equal to, so I said our slope is equal to
3 plus x.
our delta y over delta x. I just need to write delta y divided by delta x. Okay, so remember our trick with full numbers. What was that, Johnny?
What?
When I have a full number and it's not a fraction, how do I get it into a fraction?
Put a 1
You
under.
flip it. I don't know.
You don't flip it. You just put a 1 under it like Jack said. So delta y equals 2 means I go up, down, left, right. How many units? What am I doing?
2. I don't know.
2 in which direction? Delta y.
Upwards. Up.
It is up 2. So I go 1, 2. So right now I'm currently at this point. And then delta x equals 1. Sarah, help me out. Delta x equals 1. Am I going up, down, left, right, 1 unit?
I think you're going right.
You're going right 1 unit.
Dude.
So from here, I go right 1 unit and I get this point. I have 2 points, make a line.
What ones? The 2 diagonal ones? Yes.
Done.
That's hella much work.
Do you think you could do another example?
You guys want to do another example of these?
Yeah.
Please.
All right.
So silly.
Mr. Snow, do you feel redonkulous with your hat on?
A little bit.
Is this gonna be an all-year thing?
Yes.
Wait, Mr. Snow, why don't you just put it on your desk then?
Shut up.
Because not as cool as when it's on my head.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, this is another example.
Actually, can you please wear that to my graduation? That's all serious, are you?
I don't know about that. Okay, let's try another example.
It says graduation.
Y plus 1 is equal to negative 1/3 x minus 2. I need to come back here and, oops, I want to grab this and copy it. All right, so what am I going to do for this example? Go ahead and copy it down, and I'll wait for you guys to catch up. Copy it down.
Equals -1/3
All right, you guys copy down the problem. All right, what's our first step from the last slide? I'm not going to leave it up here. You guys need to look at your notes. First step is
We're going to do y, one up on y.
1 up on y, so
Oh, down.
down. It's the opposite of this. So Jack has seen +1. Opposite of +1 is -1. So I'm down here at -1. All right, and then someone else help me out. Someone aside from Jack. How is this -2 going to help us? Someone aside from Jack. We're graphing the point, just like the last problem. Spooky.
Where did you get that pencil from?
No, come on, guys. I want to pay attention to the example problem.
Just get it done.
Wait, what was it?
So I need to graph the first point. Right now I'm on step 1. I'm graphing the point. So I'm using the opposites of this number and this number in our new problem. Opposite of 1 is -1. I went down 1. And opposite of -2 is 2. So I go which direction?
Right.
Right 2. So my first point is right here. Perfect. Now Johnny hasn't contributed, so tell us how to proceed. What do we do now? We're on step 2.
This is where I get confused. I don't know.
Step 2 is using the slope to graph. So you literally take the slope, you write it in the place of slope, and you say equals delta y over delta x. So, what is our slope?
I still don't understand what you said. Okay.
Let me repeat then. So, in our last example problem, our slope is always this number right before the parenthesis, 2. We put 2 down here, and we said that equals delta y over delta x, equals delta y equals over delta x. And from there, we can use that to know what direction from that point to go to. So, what is our slope in this equation?
-1.
It's this value right here, right, Johnny? So I'm going to rewrite -1/3, -1/3. And I'm going to say that equals what? What is the equation for slope with deltas?
Equals delta y over delta x.
Perfect. And then Johnny, I'm going to give this back to you. Tell me from this point where I'm going using this. Delta y equals -1.
Confused.
Okay, so delta y means I'm going up and down. Each of these are a separate piece of instruction. This says I go up and down a certain amount. Delta y is being set equal to -1. So all the way from back here, delta y, where am I going?
Are you going up or down? I don't know yet.
Up or down? It's negative, so
Down.
down 1. Perfect. So I'm going down 1 right now. I'm going to leave a small dot here. I went down 1, and then Johnny, help me out again. Delta x equals 3. I'm going which direction?
Up 3 goes right 3.
Right 3. Perfect. So 1, 2. Okay, so it's a little bit off my graph. I can change that, though, just by dragging this over. Ha ha ha.
Lucky.
Graph paper.
Can I borrow your eraser?
So my 2 points are these 2 big points here. And I can erase these so they don't confuse anyone. You have your 2 points, so go ahead and connect them.
So from the first one, like on the next row, you go 3, right?
Yeah, so once again, I started with my original point. This was my first point. This was my second point. From my first point, delta y equals -1 means I went down 1. And delta x equals 3 means I go right 3. 1, 2, 3. And then I just connect them with the line.
Okay.
All right, are we good? We can start the homework?
Yep.
All right, go ahead and write that summary. Say goodbye to Daisy.